And so, in the end, Niles was forced to sacrifice himself. In his final moments, he could only wish that he'd never joined the Earth Directorate. Due to a clerical error, his name goes down in history, misspelled. Zebulon Tran eventually learned of Niles being pressured to sacrifice himself. The revelation made Zebulon even more angry and incautious, a recklessness that proved fatal during the final days of the war. Paradise Island's Fairfield remained a burnt-out ruin following its destruction by the Vox station. Auntie's choice was too preoccupied with galactic expansion to spare resources rebuilding one small company town. Vigilant Hogarth was declared a traitor to the Protectorate, along with most other Westport townsfolk. They were judged according to the paradigm, then sentenced to be executed until dead, forever tied to the city they could not protect. Auntie's choice seized the opportunity to take over running Alexandra Monastery and Matriarch's Mercy, while adapting punch card production to churning out cheap wares. All Order academics were assigned to write advertising copy. The Matriarch statue, meanwhile, was remodeled in Auntie's likeness. The abbot was made VP of Facilities Sanitation, a position he embraced with surprising gusto, and by all rights appears happier than ever. After defending Fort Endurance against a fierce Mantisaur attack, Executive Warchek was awarded a commendation for profit-securing stalwartness, as well as promotion to regional manager. He eventually passed peacefully in his sleep at the scientifically astounding age of 6. Within weeks of concluding the Arcadian mission, Val broke down beyond repair. Her compression coils corroded from exposure to the rifts. Her logic core decayed by the heat of extreme use. Inez succeeded in her campaign of fear, then set out on her next mission, returning to Tau Ceti to help her people push back against the greedy corporatists in her home system. The grafting program, meanwhile, remained forever shuttered. Tristan continued to doggedly uphold Protectorate values. With Virgil dead, no one could oppose Tristan for the rank of Supreme Arbiter. Tristan used his new role to punish even the smallest infractions harshly. He eventually became a widely feared figure within his own society. Marisol quietly fumed over her unfinished business with Anaïs Bujold at Point Obviation. She eventually passed away in her sleep, alone and full of regret. After Marisol left the commander's crew, rumors swirled that she began running operations on her own. She spent her days obsessing over unfinished business, eventually passing away in her sleep, alone. Asa finally achieved her dream of dying in a rift. All it took was a daring and blood-soaked heist of a modulator to create a rift that she then summarily leapt into. Thus Asa remained a fanatical member of the Glorious Dawn, spreading the truth of the rifts to her final agonized breath. With exclusive rights to the modulator schematics needed to ensure safe skip-drive travel, Auntie's choice transformed Arcadia into one of the most profitable colonies in the galaxy. Deciding that free trade must be freed from the hands of others, Auntie Cleo signed a new initiative. Any corporation or government that refused her trade conditions was promptly dealt with, either via takeover or strategic use of rifts. Ruth Bassar's death cut short her dream of interfacing with the archive. Although another presiding bishop was chosen from among the surviving laureates to replace her, they lacked her vision. In the face of the corporatists' growing influence, the Order withered and died. In recognition of outstanding customer service, the Earth Directorate commander was promoted from outsourced gun-for-hire to Auntie's right-hand VP, complete with a hull-side porthole suite in the head office tower. Adrift without firm leadership, Protectorate subjects struggled with post-war life. A small band of hardliners collaborated to preserve their society in the face of Arcadia's new leadership. Despite the recent tumultuous events in Arcadia, it was business as usual for Free Market Station. Sub Rosa continued to supply the colony in the wake of the commander's actions. Unable to die in their sacred rift after it was closed, the Glorious Dawn heeded a new calling, seeking the modulators needed to create new rifts, so that they could die in those instead. With its reputation tarnished by its well-publicized agreement with the Protectorate, the Earth Directorate was on its back foot in negotiations to purchase skip drives from the new leadership of Arcadia. The dangerous experimental research of Marisol's contact from Point Obviation lived on, with a Seer predicted 11.9% probability of yielding a universe-ending catastrophe. Meanwhile, an entrepreneurial work group of chemistricians unveiled a new flavor of Purple Berry Crunch. The release of the skip drive schematics to the public domain resulted in new and exciting opportunities for independent manufacturers. However, unchecked use of the drives would ultimately lead to an even greater proliferation of rifts, once again imperiling the galaxy. Yet Auntie's Choice was poised to exploit this scenario. They signed lucrative partnerships with skip core makers to provide rift modulators as a package deal, thus sparing the galaxy from another rift crisis, while bolstering their bottom line. Auntie's Choice treated closing the rifts like any other strategic initiative, demanding quid pro quo for each rift closure. Such cutthroat capitalism took its toll, and many colonies ended up dying off. All of these events turned on the decisive actions of the Earth Directorate agent and their unique way of navigating Arcadia, its disparate factions, social complexities, ubiquitous product placement, and arsenal of absurdly satisfying weaponry. But through it all, and to this day, Earth has remained inexplicably dark. And so in the end, Azahalia Lightinger was able to finally end her life nobly by saving the colony with her sacrifice. Not that she cared about that. She was beyond such pedestrian concerns of right and wrong. She was going to merge with perfection, and she couldn't have been happier. Aza happily joined the commander on his final voyage, an enthusiastic partner in sacrifice, and thus she finally found a peaceful, poetic death within the raging chaos at the center of her turbulent life. Within weeks of concluding the Arcadian mission, Val broke down beyond repair. Her compression coils corroded from exposure to the rifts. Her logic core decayed by the heat of extreme use. Niles cynically tried to move on, stripping Val for parts rather than dwelling on the sad task at hand. Following his rejection of the Earth Directorate, Niles became a vigilante, feared for his ruthlessness across Arcadia. His friend Zebulon Tran joined him. Already infamous for humiliating the Earth Directorate by publicizing the secret skip core agreement with the Protectorate, Tran was able to rally others to the cause of a free Arcadia. In recognition of saving the galaxy with their noble sacrifice, the Earth Directorate commander was given a posthumous position as VP at Large, complete with a modest office vestibule that sits forever vacant, except when needed by temporary personnel. But with the old Auntie dead, a new figurehead was needed to keep up appearances. Company execs fast-tracked auditions for a new Auntie. Some employees thought she looked suspiciously different, but were too overjoyed with the prospect of growing profits to care. Auntie's choice.